When the archaeologist Warwick Rodwell scooped up a handful of dust from the attics of Westminster Abbey and saw dozens of tiny fragments of glass glittering in the grime, he realized they were dealing with excavation, not house clearance. The salvaged glass, some dating back to the 13th century, including stars, flowers and sun rays, fierce little mythical animals and beautiful medieval faces, is now being recycled into dazzling new windows being made for the Abbey at the stained glass studio at Canterbury Cathedral, where some of the original medieval glass artists may also have worked. The Westminster attics, the Triforium, were being cleared out to create a new museum space opening next year. It will be the first time the general public has ever been admitted to the spectacular space. Until the new tower, which will be lit by the new windows, was built outside the walls of Poets' Corner, the only access was by a perilous, narrow spiral staircase used by centuries of workmen, and occasionally guests, and in the 20th century journalists, for great state occasions including coronations, royal weddings and funerals. Once I saw the glass the penny dropped. I realized this was treasure, not rubbish, and we would have to go through every inch of it, Rodwell, the Abbey's archaeologist, said, adding, "He workmen thought I was mad." The attics became one of the most unusual excavations anywhere. The diggers were working in pits up to 1.5 meters deep, heavily masked to protect them from asbestos and lead dust, almost 30 meters above the floor of the Abbey. The cone-shaped pits were the upper sides of the vaulted ceiling, where layers of dust and rubbish had accumulated over 750 years. And the larger objects were sealed in when Sir Christopher Wren floored the space 300 years ago. On Rodwell's orders, everything including greasy London soot from the time of Henry III was brought down to ground level in buckets and hand-sorted by teams of archaeologists. Rodwell, not a man for understatement, describes his excitement over the treasures as akin to Howard Carter finding the tomb of Tutankhamun. His wonderful things include buttons and coins, the wrapper from a 17th century pack of tobacco from a shop just outside the Abbey walls, scraps of animal bone from workmen's lunches, a medieval leather knife sheath, a 17th century playing card, one pattern, a 15th century wooden and leather overshoe, and Rodwell's favorite, invitations to the coronation of Queen Anne in 172. One was torn into four and dropped down between the floorboard, presumably in the long hours the ticket holder, one Samuel Pratt D.D., spent hanging around waiting for anything to happen. Eventually, they had 30,000 pieces of glass, all taken to the stained glass studio at Canterbury Cathedral, where they care for the cathedral's acres of glass but also take on conservation projects for churches all over the country. Lenny Seliger and her team cleaned, sorted and photographed every sliver from Westminster down to fragments the size of little fingernails. They were sorted by colors, and star objects including the exquisite 15th century head of the Virgin, one tear sliding down her cheek as she watches the death of her son.